Hey everyone, Chris here. In this video I'm going to review the Tacx Neo 2T Smart Turbo Trainer. I've set the camera up pretty wide so you can see everything that's going on. So if you can make the video full screen, you probably want to so that you can see the detail. I'll take you through the setup, I'll show you a bit of riding, show you the features, talk about what I like and what I don't like. I've been using this as my turbo for about 18 months now, so it's a pretty long-term review. I've really used this a lot, especially over the pandemic and lockdown, and so I've really got a lot of use out of it, and so we'll get into it. So just starting with like the convenience, obviously I live in a flat, I don't have a pain cave, so having it folding up nice and small like this, really useful for just stashing it away so that I can use it here with my big TV, and then I can just fold it up and it's out of the way, not taking up a ton of space, which is great if you have a family and live in the city centre like I do. I'll show you the setup, and I'll talk about the stuff that I don't like a ton, just because it'll be obvious as we go through it why I'm doing that first, and then I'll talk about all the stuff I love. So, a couple of things. First off, I've got one of the Tacx mats as well. Got a bit of oil on my carpet, and so I've invested in one of these to try and keep the rest of my carpet safe. And then there's a riser block to go at the front. This is a really nice quality riser block. You might think, well, it doesn't really matter, but if you've seen my review of the Lifeline fluid turbo trainer, fairly basic dumb trainer, the front riser block cracked on that. Now it's still usable, but the plastic has a massive crack in it. This hasn't had any problems so far. We'll stick that there. It's a heavy unit. Hopefully you've got some strength in you, because it is not super lightweight. It's got a massive flywheel in it, and it just folds out, and I'll stick that into position. Also plug it in. Now, one of the interesting things about the Tacx Neo 2T is that it doesn't need plugging in. In fact, if you've seen my RGT cycling video, you'll know that I forgot to plug it in, and then I would get off between takes and it would disconnect, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? But it's because I forgot to plug it in, so it wasn't powered on continuously. So it's like the idea that you can run it without power is nice. And they say, well, like if you do time trials, you might want to take it to your car park and warm up in the car park on it, and you can, because it doesn't need power. I've done a couple of time trials and I've never done that, but there was, if you saw Ironman VR races over lockdown, I think it was Miranda Caffrey's husband accidentally tripped over the power cable and unplugged her turbo, and that was her race over. Whereas if you were on the Tacx Neo, that wouldn't be a problem, because it would still work even if you accidentally yank the power cable out. So maybe that is the one use case for it. Now, mounting your bike, let's look at that. So this is the one thing that I don't like about it, and we'll see how it goes. I have a thru-axle bike, so I've put the thru-axle adapter on it, which comes with the 2T. So that's one of the upgrades from the Tacx Neo 2 to the 2T, is that before you had to buy the thru-axle adapter separately. With the 2T it comes in the box. And if you're just going to a wheel-off trainer, you want to make sure it's in your biggest gear, just so you can align it on the cassette that's mounted here. So I'll just take the thru-axle out. A lot of people wonder as well when they go to a wheel-off trainer is you've got one cassette on your wheel and one cassette on here, and if they don't wear equally, does that mess up your gear shifting? There's two solutions to this. So a lot of triathletes have so much money, they just have separate bikes. They have a trainer bike and an outside bike. If you don't want to spend that much money on a bike like a normal person, then just chance it and just have two separate cassettes and don't bother changing the chain. And it turns out that it's mostly fine. Most of my friends, including me, we just run separate cassettes and a single chain, and eventually we'll have to change it all. But we're 18 months on now. I've changed the cassette on the bike, still got the original cassette on the trainer, and it's worked out okay. So I'm going to pull this off. Just need to nudge the rear derailleur down. Try and line it up. And then just get it on again to the biggest gear. Here. Slide the thru-axle through. And it's gone on first time, which is annoying, because normally what happens is I push the thru-axle in and I twist it, and it just twists and twists and twists but doesn't connect in. And I don't know, I fully accept that maybe I'm doing something wrong here, but I keep having to reposition the bike and then put the thru-axle in and try and twist it again, and it happens loads of times. And it might be I'm doing something wrong, but I've taken a video, sent it to Garmin, who now own Tacx, and showed them, and they don't know what I'm doing wrong. So if I am being an idiot, their support team also have no idea. It normally takes me a couple of attempts to get that on, and as luck would have it, when I'm making a video about it, it works first time. But that is my probably biggest annoyance with this, is that it's hard to get a thru-axle bike on, because you have to reposition it and it takes ages a couple of times. A lot of you, I know a lot of triathletes are still on quick release, so maybe you won't have to deal with that problem. Once you go to thru-axle, I don't think you'll ever go back. I would never go back to quick release, I don't think, because thru-axle is so much better, but it has been a pain getting on the turbo trainer, so that's my one dislike. But other than that, it's brilliant, because you can plug it in, or you don't need to plug it in, you can just get on it and get cycling. And it requires no calibration. So again, with some of the others like the Wahoo, you need to calibrate it. With the Tacx Neo, you don't need to calibrate it at all. And it's got ANT Plus and it's got Bluetooth connectivity, so you can connect it up to your Garmin bike computer if you're using ANT Plus. It will connect to your TV. If you want to use something like Zwift, I run Zwift on my Mac Mini and my Apple TV. All that connects over Bluetooth. Similarly, if I'm running Trainer Road on my iPad or my phone, that connects over Bluetooth as well. So that's all the setup. Now I'm gonna jump on, so I'll switch into my bike gear. I fractured my ankle, which is why I'm stomping around in this boot. So I'm gonna switch into my cycling shoes as well, and I'll give you a bit of a demo of what it's like actually using the bike and the turbo. Connected the turbo trainer up to Zwift. Pretty painless, just connected straight away. I've used it with a bunch of different apps. I've used it with RGT, Revi, Trainer Road, all works fine. Let me jump on the bike. I'm going to change down to a nice easy gear so that I can talk, and I've got a fractured ankle, so I can't put too much weight through it anyway. Cool, so we are off and rolling. Let's talk a bit about the features of if you're looking at the Tacx Neo 2T, you probably have a pretty large budget and you're looking at what is the best trainer, and you're probably familiar with the stats. It can handle more sustained power than any other trainer on the market at the moment. There's newer trainers out, maybe that won't be true anymore, can simulate gradients of up to 25%. Whether my legs can still turn at 25%, I don't know. I've tried doing this on the Zwift. That only peaks at 15%. I did 100% difficulty. That was cool. Haven't tried it on somewhere like New York where there isn't a massive climb, but it does go up to like 20% or whatever. So I've never used more than 15%. Is probably the takeaway. It's on my to-do list, but still, do you really need a trainer that simulates 25%? I probably don't, because I don't use it. What else is cool about it? So it's got the rumble effect, so when we go over some cobbles on Zwift, it will start rumbling. Is that good? Yeah, kind of. Like, it feels cheaper than it's way more expensive than a vibrator. Does give you a bit more of that authentic road feel, and it is kind of fun. It's annoying in a race, like when I'm trying to concentrate on a race, then I'm like, why is it rumbling? This is annoying. But when I'm just riding around every day and I'm bored, just riding inside, looking at the screen, then it's cool. Also does downhill simulation, so when I come down off a big hill, the problem is on a real road, like, you would spin out even in your highest gear. You wouldn't be able to put any power down. But on a turbo trainer normally doesn't do that. With this one, it's got downhill simulation where it will electronically spin the flywheel forward, so that even in your highest gear you end up spinning out. Again, makes it more realistic. Terrible for racing, because everyone without that is going to put the power down and be generating like 300 watts coming down a hill, which you normally couldn't do on like a 9% gradient or whatever, because you wouldn't have the gearing to do that in the real world. But if you are in a race situation and want to disable that, just pull the power cable out, because it only works, the downhill simulation only works when it's plugged in. So easy to get around that one. Is it a good feature? I don't know, because I haven't descended the Alp to Zwift on anything other than this trainer, but it seems quite nice on that. So those are kind of fun features that you're paying a bit more for. Do you really need? You probably don't need them. But the core things to get on it are, I like the fact that it runs without power, and I like how quiet it is. We'll do a noise test at the moment. Currently I'm using a lapel mic, and so you won't be getting a real simulation, but we'll switch to the on-camera microphone in a little bit, and you can see what it sounds like from the camera. And it simulates the gradients really well. So right now I'm going up a hill and it's got harder, and then as I go down the hill it's going to get easier, so I have to use a lot of gears. And it's got a bit of sway to it as well, way more sway than my fixed wheel on trainer. So again, find this a little bit more comfortable. I think I did maybe a 2 hour 15 ride on my wheel on trainer, and that was unpleasant. This one, I mean, riding for more than an hour on any turbo trainer I find uncomfortable, but I have done up to maybe 3.5 hours on this one, and just little things like the sway makes it a bit easier. The fact that occasionally it gets hard and you might get out the saddle, you use your gears more, you get that rumble effect on the cobbles. Again, it just feels a bit more like riding outside. Still my ass gets pretty fed up after an hour, but I don't think there's any amount of realism that will resolve that. So let's do the noise test. So I'll switch to the on-camera microphone. The sound is going to be pretty rubbish, but you'll be able to hear everything in the room and be able to compare the trainer noise to my voice. Now switched over to the on-camera microphone, so I'll probably sound further away. You'll probably be getting a lot of echo, but you'll be able to hear what the camera feels like. It's like 2 meters away from the bike, and it's pretty impressive, I think. So now I'll take it up to, I'm only outputting like 100 watts here, but it's pretty quiet compared to like my fluid trainer that really screamed when I crank the power up. Really the noise comes from the drive chain, so if you clean your chain, clean your gears pretty often, you're going to get basically very little noise. Like easily my voice is louder than the noise coming off the trainer. The flywheel spinning forward does generate a little bit of noise, but I don't think it really generates as much noise as the drive chain. So it's really, as often as you want to clean your drive chain, is what will be making the noise rather than the trainer itself. I'm taking this up to about 200 watts now. The fluid trainer really started to scream the more power I put down. This one, not so bad, doesn't get too noisy. It really doesn't get much worse than this. I'm going to take us down again. I'm sorry, fractured ankle. Unfortunate for making videos with. So the noise test, really quiet, really good. My wife loves it. She used to hate my old trainer. This one, she ordered me to buy it because she was so sick of the noise of the old one. This one, lovely and quiet. Keep that chain clean and you'll have a great experience. Let's summarize what we've discussed in this video then. So I've been using the Tacx Neo 2T for 18 months now. I think it's a really good, smart trainer. The disadvantages is that it is a pain to get on with a thru-axle sometimes. I find it really difficult to get on. And that's pretty much it. Everything else is good, so supports a huge amount of power, has a rumble effect, has a downhill simulator, will run without the power cable if you accidentally unplug the power cable or want to use it in a car park, doesn't require any calibration, and is super quiet, so everything we want. If anything, it's too good. Like, why do you need to simulate 25% gradients? How often does that come up in Zwift or whatever program you're using? Like, you probably don't need to spend this much on a turbo trainer, but if you want to do, it'll give you the most realistic feel riding indoors. And we should speak about the cost because it is over £1,000. And when you think you can get smart trainers for a couple of £100, albeit not as good and not with they're probably still wheel on, so not as good. But it is a huge amount of money, right? And you're getting features like downhill simulator, the rumble effect, supporting gradients up to 25% that you don't really need or would use. But if you've got the money to burn, this clearly is, for me, the best turbo trainer on the market. And literally, the only downside I've found is that it's a pain to get on and off with the thru-axle. But other than that, haven't had any problems. I haven't tried it with a quick release, so I don't know if that's a similar thing. But yeah, great trainer. Hopefully that was useful. If so, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you're into your cycling, your triathlon, then hit that subscribe button because that's what my channel is all about, and I would love to see you in another video.